Paprium, the new Kickstarter is out, and we're going to be asking whether you should support it. Now, I guess the most logical answer to this is going to be, well, it's up to every individual whether they want to back it or not. Me personally, I have backed it, and I've publicised that I've backed it. And in today's show, we're going to be talking about why I backed it. We'll talk about the Kickstarter and some of the risks that I see with this Kickstarter, as well as looking a little bit back on the history of Paprium and its development. So let's start off with the Kickstarter itself. So the primary goal of this Kickstarter is to bring Paprium to modern consoles, to next generation consoles, to current generation consoles, which I think is a great thing. I did a video back in mid-2020 talking about how Paprium could release. At that time, it hadn't been released. And I spoke about the business model of going broad or increasing the funnel. And the way that you do this in games is you go multi-platform. And a great strategy for any indie developer is to make sure that you're on the modern platforms as well as supporting the original hardware that you're making the game for. This ensures that you've got enough revenue coming into your business so that you can pay to develop the product, but also that you can support your next development. Unless you're just doing a one-hit wonder and that's it, you're going to need cash to help fund your next game. Now, Watermelon went completely the opposite direction. They didn't support modern consoles to start with, and they went straight for the original hardware, which is admirable, but it's a very steep uphill that you have to tread. It's super expensive, there's no guarantees of success, and to be honest, the market is super small. Us collectors who like to buy brand new games for old hardware, we're in a niche. Retro gaming is a niche, so it's a niche within a niche. And so the market's relatively small. It's not going to make you huge amounts of money. It's definitely not going to allow you to fund something as ambitious as something like Paprium. So for me, I still think the correct course or the correct business strategy to take with a game like Paprium was to develop simultaneously with the original hardware and for new consoles. And essentially the new consoles are what pay for the cost of building this game on the original console, and hopefully gets you enough money to make your next game. With that being said, though, they didn't do that. I genuinely think that cash flow was a big problem for Fonzie and for Watermelon. Doing a game that's that ambitious with the amount of money they managed to raise with a Kickstarter, I think was pretty brave. I think what probably happened is that the guys that were still working on the game, whether it was Fonzie by himself or other people, they would have had to have taken contract work. Unless they've got a partner or someone that's supporting them, generally what happens here is that with independents, they have to take on extra work or freelance work to help fund them and their lifestyle. And then in the background, they work on the game. And I think this is what happened here. There's no way Paprium should have taken as long as it did, although AAA games do take that long. It's not unheard of, right? I've worked on a number of games that take 5-6 years to make, but I think if it was just him for the last part of development, he's probably doing a bit of freelance work in between working on the game, and that's what would have stretched it out. I think the biggest problem with Paprium was not that it took too long. We know that games take a long time to develop. We know that games that push the envelope take a very long time to develop. Look at Grand Theft Auto, for instance. I think the thing that really upset people, and again, I'm just assuming here because I didn't back it originally. I backed it when it came out in December. But I think that the thing that frustrated people the most, and the thing that would frustrate me the most, is communication. And I think this is where Watermelon and Fonzie fall down flat on their face. You know, when I look at the work he does, I think he's a bit of a renaissance man. You know, great at doing a ton of different things, multi-skilled, really talented. But these guys and girls tend to be abysmal at communication. And this is where I hope Watermelon have learnt their lesson and we start to see more communication from these guys as they go through this Kickstarter. So, the Kickstarter itself. Why did I back it? Well, one, I did want to see it on a modern console. It's really convenient for me to play on a modern console. I'd love to see it on Switch, and I think that is one of the stretch goals that I have. Looking at how successful this Kickstarter's been, I'm pretty sure they're going to hit that Switch console and bring Paprium to that console. I think it's super low risk. Once you've developed a game, developing a game from nothing into something is the hardest part of any development. Porting it, super simple. And I know I watched the video and he's talked about the challenges they have. And yeah, I'm pretty sure there are absolutely challenges bringing any game to another platform. But I look at Paprium and I could probably port that myself within 6 months using Unity. Super easy. Using something like Unity, it upscales all your assets for you, keeps them pixel perfect and crisp. You can put on a load of CRT filters if you want to. It's just a known quantity. There are businesses that are out there that are just set up to port games onto different consoles. I mean, just look at the Doom port from PC and PlayStation 4 onto the Nintendo Switch. That would have been hard. Bringing something like Paprium, where you're actually able to upscale and play with it, bring in new effects, do stuff with the sound that you couldn't do on limited hardware, is going to be a lot easier than it is to take something that's high-end and bring it to a lower-end console. So I'm very confident that they can do this. And so from that point of view, backing it, if you want just to get a version, a digital version, they say it's a physical version, but he mentions in the Kickstarter that it's a box potentially with a code in it. If you're backing it to get it on a console, you're likely going to get that. Even if it takes them a little longer, it seems to take Watermelon a long time to develop their games. It shouldn't do, but even if it does, I'm pretty confident that you could back this and you'll get that. There's almost no risk in it. Where the risk comes into this is all these extras that he keeps on putting in. It's really exciting to see them. If we just go through some of the stretch goal items that he puts in there, and one thing I would say is that I'm super impressed with his attention to detail. And Watermelon's attention to detail. I love it. As a AAA games developer myself, I love attention to detail. I get lost in just tunneling down on one thing and making it the best it can be. It's just the little nuances to your game, the packaging, how you present it that make a difference. And this is something that Fonzie has in droves. The problem with that is like people like him, people like me, is you get distracted super quickly. And you lose focus on what the main goal is. And this is where people like producers and project managers in your business really help. They keep you on track, they keep you focused, and they keep you working on the most important thing. But saying that, he has released the game, and he's done it with a load of other people. So, it's not just him, there are a lot of other people, and he's produced something that's pretty fantastic. So being able to play that on next generation consoles, brilliant. I'm still waiting my physical Mega Drive copy I ordered back in December, but I'm confident he'll deliver that. He's done it once. Do it again is not too much of a problem. So it may take a little bit longer, but I'm confident he'll deliver that. Where I get nervous is all these extras. Again, really amazing to see, but every time an extra comes into the Kickstarter, it puts everything else at risk. Or we just have to acknowledge that it could be another 2, 3 years, 4 years before you get these extras. So let's go through them. Limited print photographs, that's super easy. Paprium Compendium, I've bought that. Really excited for that. Again, super easy to get. Brazilian edition of the game, really nice. I think, again, super easy for them to do. It's just going to be some rebranding of the box. There's nothing much you have to do there. Right, here's where our first risk comes in. It's a really awesome risk, but it's something that could distract from the main Kickstarter. And that is the Game Gear Mini Paprium game. So, if we look at Fonzie and we look at Watermelon, we know that their attention to detail to build high quality products is there. And they're willing to take as long as it takes to get it done. Building a whole new game for a whole new system, that's risky. Now, it's risky in two ways. One, they get distracted and they go down this rabbit hole and everything else gets a back step as they build out the Game Gear game. Or the Game Gear game is just so far off in the distance they can put it in there because they know they're going to do all this stuff first and then go on to the Game Gear. Now, if they're not doing it internally and it's another team, which I think I saw someone was doing it, another team was doing it. But if it is another team, that de-risks it. That means that you could have asynchronous development happening at the same time. But I don't think they can do Game Gear port at the same time. I just think that's too much work to take on for one team. And so one of those two things are going to suffer. Right, next thing we've got here is coming to Steam and PlayStation. Well, that was the original Kickstarter, so you'd hope they'll be able to do that. Like I said, super low risk there. I have full confidence they'll be able to do that. It should be super easy, and it's going to be great to play. I love my beat-em-ups. I've not played Paprium yet, but a load of the guys in the Mega Drive community that I know who've got it say it is stunning. You know, if you put to one side all the rubbish that went on, it's a stunning game. So I'm looking forward to it on a next-gen console. I would say that I have found that games that were made for original Mega Drive hardware, when they go to next-generation consoles or current-generation consoles, some of the magic is lost. You know, the magic of these games is that they're so amazing, and yet they're running on hardware that's 30 years old. So if we look at something like Demons of Asterburg, I played that on Switch, and I played it on Steam, and I played it on Mega Drive. And by far, I love playing it on Mega Drive because it's not just the game, it's knowing that game is running on something that is 30 years old. And so that makes it a little bit more special. So I don't know if it's going to be the same for Paprium. You know, if some of the magic is lost once you're on a next-gen console because you've got things like Streets of Rage 4. There's a ton of indie titles out there that just have the old school 16-bit look, but are just stunning in their implementation, and they really utilize these next generation consoles, the processors, the GPU. They really utilize them to kind of lift them above these old games. So, but let's see how it does. Next up, they've got 3-player co-op activated. Again, super cool. I think Fonzie says the only way you can do this is with the Grandmaster stick. Be interesting to see if you can use the multi-tap to actually play the third player. That will be very cool. And these, again, this talks to the quality of the product that these guys have developed. There's loads of little extras in there, some that you're only finding out now, some that people discovered when they first got it. And this is one of them. 3 players is an awesome little addition to the game. Next big risk, and this is another one that's on the same level as Game Gear. Bring it to Dreamcast. Now, at this point, I'm like, I don't know why you would even mention this in the Kickstarter. It's really exciting, but how is all this money that you're generating here? And let's see how much he's generated at the moment. The Kickstarter's done amazingly well. Funded in a week? So he's got 382,000. Obviously, Kickstarter takes some of that, and then you got to pay for the physical goods. How do you pay for development? How do you pay for development of the Dreamcast version and the Game Gear version? How do you do that? How do you then also port? This is another risk we've got here. So the only way I see that he's doing this is the same with the Game Gear. Again, I wouldn't have it as another team doing it. That's costly. It's going to have to be that this is coming after next gen, right? He's got to make his money. That company has to make its money back so that it can develop or port IPs onto different consoles. And the Dreamcast is a little bit more difficult. So he's going to have to... I think he's going to have to ship this one after the next gen has started to make money. He has to make money on that to be able to do this. So again, I don't doubt that he'll be able to do it. I think he is one of those developers that is going to take 5-6 years to make games. That's fine. That's exactly what Rockstar North are with GTA. 5, 6, 7 years average for a game. You look at them, they're still porting Grand Theft Auto 5. We've got no Grand Theft Auto 6 yet. So, he is one of those developers that will take a long time. But I think if you're backing this and you add this to your pack, you've just got to remember that the Dreamcast one could be on a very, very long burn. Because at the moment, having developed games, I'm just trying to get my head around the number of different development paths he set out for himself and how he could achieve those with the finances that he currently has from the Kickstarter. It's not impossible, but it's super hard again, right? He's kind of making this very difficult for himself. And then after that, we've got a new playable character. It's one of the baddies. Is it Rondo? Very cool. Next gen only. So hopefully when I get my physical Mega Drive copy, that's mostly where I'll be playing it. And then when I'm commuting on the train, I'll be able to play it on the Switch. And this is where I'll be able to play the new character. Adding new characters, super easy. So yeah, pretty low risk. Then the Kickstarter goes all the way up to, I think it looks like about $700,000. You can see the Switch icons are there. It looks like that's around 400,000. So Hopefully by midweek that will happen, and we'll get the Switch version. I think he should have gone Switch first, because the market for the Switch is all about indie games. And he could have got some support from Nintendo to help market this game on the Nintendo Switch. In fact, Nintendo would probably pay a lot more in marketing than someone like Sony or Steam will. Those have two big audiences there, but the Nintendo Switch has a dedicated, huge indie audience there. So I would have gone Switch and Steam rather than PlayStation and Steam. We'll see how that plays out. I think Nintendo would have actually backed this project and helped it with marketing if he'd gone that route first. Then we got more secrets, and then even more secrets, and then even more secrets. So, unless these are kind of physical goods like toys and things like that, again, these can be detached from the development process. They're very separate. If you pay $30 for a toy, as long as he's made sure that he makes profit on each one of those toys, he's generating the cash already for those. If they're more platforms, and especially if they're more obscure platforms, like if you was to say the Super Nintendo is going to be one of the platforms we come to. At that point, I'm just like, okay, I have no idea how you're going to deliver on this unless this is a 20-year project. I mean, I'm going over the top there, but how do you deliver on a project that would have so many different platforms on there? I can't see him doing that at all. And then when we look at the roadmap, we've got a couple of other things in here. We've got a blue line that says PayPal something. It looks like loses something. And then Watermelon makes profit. This is one of the things that I don't like about Watermelon or Fonzie, is that they break the fourth wall a lot. And if you're a content creator, breaking the fourth wall can be extremely damaging to your community. So when I make a game, or when I'm making a video for YouTube, it's a relationship between me and my viewers, or me and the people playing the game. And the thing that we share in common is usually the subject matter, like the subject matter of the video or the game itself. And as long as the conversation stays there between us, the community thrives. You love playing my games. I like making the games for you to play. Let's talk about the game and how we can make it better. Yeah, everyone's involved. Everyone can get behind that. Same with the YouTube videos. I make a YouTube video about a subject matter. You really like it. I like talking about it. We can engage and there's a good conversation. Where that conversation breaks down is when a developer or a content creator breaks the fourth wall. And this happens the most when someone has a gripe or something they want to complain about. Suddenly you break that two-way communication. Because whilst I may be upset YouTube are doing something, or something's happened with my game, you don't care. The conversation we were having was about the game or about the video or the subject matter. It wasn't about my personal problems or my company problems or problems that I have with someone else. And so as soon as I break that fourth wall, that's when people start to shut off. People don't care about that. They're not that interested. There are some hardcore people that are interested in it, but there's a lot of people that don't. And now suddenly I've changed the conversation that we were having to something that you're not interested in. And you either walk away and go somewhere else, or you get frustrated. Why is he talking about this? Why is he talking about that? I want to talk about the game, or I want to talk about the video. I don't want to talk about his problems with YouTube. I don't care about that. I'm not a games developer. I'm not a YouTuber. I don't, you can't relate to that. And I think this is one of the big problems he makes is, and you can see it in here. This blue line obviously is something to complain probably about PayPal. He's done it in some of his videos already. He absolutely didn't need to do that. You don't need to do it. Find people in your inner circle that you can moan to and complain to. You're absolutely entitled to do that. But don't bring it out in your community. It just breeds toxicity. It just makes your community toxic because suddenly you're not talking at the same level as them. They don't have the same perspective. They don't have the same problem. They're excited about what you're making. They want to see that. So talk about that. Make them understand that. And as long as you keep that dialogue going, you can have a game that runs and has been built for 6 years and people will still support you because you're taking them along for the journey. As soon as you start to introduce something into that conversation or that journey that they can't relate to, they walk away, they get disillusioned, or they break away from you. So, as we go through this Kickstarter and this new development process, this is one thing I'd love to see. I don't want to hear about the press don't want to hear about PayPal. Those problems may be absolutely genuine, and there's an inner circle of people that you need to be able to confide in and let off steam to. But don't do it to the community, because they just want to see the game. Show screenshots, talk about the development process, talk about some of the challenges of the development process, things that you're achieving with the development process. These are the things that people like to engage with. So back to the Kickstarter. I have backed it. I've gone for a physical next-gen copy, which I think is the second pledge price, like that $24 or something like that. For me, £18, that's well worth the game. Like I said, I think there's super low risk there. I definitely think that will be delivered. I also went and picked myself up a copy of Pier Solar. Is it risky that? I don't think so. I mean, the game's finished. It's either he's got leftover copies or they're going to do another manufacturing run. So I was kind of confident backing that, and if that comes in a year's time, I don't mind. Just to have that game would be awesome to have that on the game shelf. And then obviously I'm not backing or I'm not paying for a physical copy of Paprium on the Mega Drive, because I've already done that. I paid for the limited edition, which I think was about £230. Super expensive, but again, I love the presentation of that. Beat-em-up game, high quality, AAA, and all the presentation that goes with it. I absolutely love that kind of stuff, and I'm willing to wait for that kind of thing. I'm not willing to not get it because I've paid the cash, but I'm willing to wait for that. And I like those sort of things. They're really unique pieces that will sit in the collection and that I'll have a lot of fun playing. So those are the things that I've paid for. And also the compendium, that really I found quite interesting. I love like art books, how-to, secret. I love all that kind of stuff. So I did go for the compendium. A little bit pricey, but again, I think this is the markup on that is probably going to help with the development of some of these other things there. So I already know there's probably like a 500% markup on that compendium. But again, it's, everyone's different. I'm willing to pay that price for that. The other things, I was tempted by the Game Gear thing. I don't think that's going to come anytime soon though. Dreamcast, tempted by Dreamcast. I don't think that's going to come anytime soon. I'd be completely wrong, but those are super risky for me. If there's a Switch version, I will pay for the Switch version, and I'll have the Switch version. And then it'll be interesting to see what else they have there. But, whilst I'm excited about all these new things, and I love what they've done with their Kickstarter, all these new secrets, these new perks that keep on coming out, super cool. My worry is that, are we going to have an overpromise and underdeliver? Quite possibly. Let me know what you think of this down in the comments below. Everyone's welcome to comment. Everyone has an opinion about Paprium. Are you going to back it? Is it something that you don't want to be involved with anymore? Are you interested but scared about the risks? Let us know in those comments down below. If you're new to the channel, you like what we've discussed here today, why not consider subscribing? You can also be notified as soon as we get a brand new video, which comes out every single Monday by clicking on a little bell just below this video. And if you're looking for more, well, you can find 2 more videos just over here.